Welcome back, little nerds. It's Saturday morning. It's 10 a.m. It's Pillow Talk Derm time. And today we're going to cover the aging secrets from peaks to valleys and everything in between. And we're even going to touch on controversial launches that took place in the past 2 weeks while I was in Lebanon, because I definitely want to share with you guys some thoughts that I have regarding this certain launch that happened. Before I do so, who the hell am I? I'm Dr. Shereene Idriss, a board certified dermatologist. Welcome to Pillow Talk Derm. We do this every Saturday at 10 a.m. So subscribe, like, and follow along. Let me know your questions ahead of time. Leave them in the comment section. I do read through them. That being said, before I jump into the whole aging secrets, peaks, valleys, and everything in between, I just want you guys to know the following. I am not doing this video to scare you. I am not doing this video to instill fear, to instill doubt, to instill insecurities. The reason I'm doing this video is because aging, for better or for worse, has been approached with a lot of disdain, a lot of fear, a lot of negative emotions. I mean, I myself was so excited to celebrate my son's 6th birthday yesterday until I realized I'm 6 years older. And of course I'm seeing signs kick in, loss of elasticity, lines, a couple of jowling, you name it. It's happening, not just in my face, on my body. But the reality is, if we're not aging, we're dead. And my goal with this video is to let you know the trends that I've noticed along the way, because as a derm, that's pretty much the only thing I'm good for, is recognizing trends, right? And I want you guys to be prepared and equipped mentally for what is to come so you can choose how you want to age. The goal is to age the best that you can, not just physically, but also mentally. And the physical does affect the psyche. So this video is really to help prep you guys. But before we jump in, I want to talk about the Skims Face Wrap launch. Kim K launched this contracture that looks like this in the past 2 weeks. And quite frankly, I was really taken aback. Yes, she has a Skims brand. Yes, she has shapewear, really great shapewear, to be honest. But no shapewear has ever changed the shape permanently of your body. So how is face shapewear going to permanently change the shape of your body? It's not. It's like saying I'm going to wear spandex and at the end of 2 weeks, I'm going to look like that shape. You are not. Or I'm going to wear Spanx, or I'm going to wear Skims. You are not going to change the shape of your face with this contracture. The whole claims of sculpting, shaping, tightening your jaw overnight is a hard no. It's complete bullshit. But what makes the story worse for me is the fact that the fabric is spun with collagen yarn. When was the last time you absorbed cotton? Let me ask you that. Or tulle, or polyester, or silk. When was the last time you've absorbed that? So I just think it's a lot of straight up bullshit, to be honest with you guys. But we're not gonna completely shit on it. There is one condition in which it could come in handy, and that's honestly post-operatively. If you've had a facelift, if you've had chin lipo or a neck lift, or if you're having a lot of swelling from dental work and you're trying to keep that area compressed, because swelling, this can help minimize that swelling, but it is never going to lift, tighten, chisel your face long term. It is just not. And if you do wear this too much, you might actually go in the opposite direction. I'm talking about if you do not have surgery, but if you wear it just because you want to wear it, you might be compressing your own lymphatic fluid, causing compression for your own vasculature and for things in your own face. So it's really not something that I recommend, and it really is bothering me because I have set this standard of beauty for over a decade with a lot of things that I have just been adamantly against, including when they went completely dramatic with the fillers. I was shouting subtle can be dramatic, and I feel like the pendulum has finally swung with regards to fillers in that regard, which is great. But I think they are feeding into a lot of insecurities, a lot of complexes, and this particular thing, face wrap, is adding to the cherry on top of the whipped cream, on top of the ice cream, on top of the cake. And it's really not something that you need. Can gadgets be worth your coin? The answer is yes. Certain gadgets can be worth your coin that are going to help your skin in the long run. I'm talking about, for example, NuFace or Zip, using microcurrent to help with the ATP production within your cells, to help to generate that, to keep your cells looking more youthful, to help your skin look a little bit better and a little bit firmer. I'm also talking about the MediLift face mask, which uses EMS technology to contract your muscles and to help stimulate them so you can have a more tightened look. Those gadgets help. Even certain laser hair removal devices, even though they're not technically lasers, I can stand behind. There is like one or two that I actually do like. But this wrap, I vote No, unless you've had surgery and unless your surgeon tells you to use it. Which leads me to our next section, the aging process. Peaks versus valleys or both. What I have noticed in my practice is that there are certain times in life that are defining moments in how we age. And I have noticed these 3 peaks, the first 3 peaks on my own. There's a fourth that was documented, I'm going to get to in a second, that I think people don't really come in acknowledging because they just accepted their fate at that point. But there has been a recent study, okay, that found, this was I think published a year or 2 ago, I will link it below, that finds that humans age faster at 2 sharp peaks. And the 2 sharp peaks that they showed that humans age faster molecularly, genetically inside of you is at age 44 and at age 60. But I will strongly debate that. I think there's 2 other peaks. One in your late 20s, early 30s, I'm talking 29 to 32, and one in your late 30s, 38, 39. So let's start with peak number 1, your late 20s to early 30s. What happens there? We're living in the age of social media, cameras, we're facing our faces, Zooms, etc. So we are much more attuned to our faces and people are noticing it more. Is it that? Is it, social pushing beauty standards onto us? Maybe it's a little bit of both. But I have noticed this shift in patients. So I think it's actually a physical shift that does take place. It's a very, very subtle shift. And most people don't even know exactly what is going on. But over the course of 6 months, something happens to your face where you start to feel like your head was back here and now your face is down here. Like it goes, and there's like a flatness that happens on the lateral aspects of your face. Your face starts to look a little bit narrower and longer. And it's a very subtle shift, but people are noticing it and it is real. Why is that happening? Mostly due to slight volume shrinkage happening on the outer aspects of our face. And that shrinkage is leading to other things shifting within our face. Can we completely prevent this? I think you can't prevent anything for the most part, but you can minimize the overall shift by making sure you're having a healthy diet and you're not yo-yoing in your weight. That yo-yoing of your weight will definitely accentuate that shift in your face and you will see it more dramatically. So that is huge. In terms of diet though, are collagen powders going to keep your face looking that way? Probably not. Collagen powders are not going to make a massive impact, I do not believe, especially if you have a healthy diet in your 20s. They may help more later on in life as you cannot really hold on to hydration as much, but it doesn't mean that if you drink a collagen powder, it's going to go straight to your skin. And so I want you to approach collagen powders very, very iffily because the reality is it hasn't been really proven and proven well. And so even though you're getting pushed collagen powders by a lot of professionals online, I would approach collagen powders more cautiously. Now, in terms of skincare, starting with a retinoid in your 20s is a great idea. Something I wish I would have done. I didn't really start with a retinoid in my 20s, but I do wish I had started in my 20s with a retinoid. Because as you hit 25, 26, you start to lose around 1% of collagen a year. And as you start to use retinoids, you can help with that collagen production over time being the key word. So even though you start using it in your 20s, you're not going to see a massive difference then, but your later self will thank you. Additionally, now in office, treatments that I do like that can be helpful, I think light microneedling can make a nice difference. I'm not talking about microneedling with a lot of radio frequency or heat. You don't want to risk melting your fat and any nice, beautiful tissue that you have. And if you are going to be using any sort of heat with microneedling, you have to make sure you go to somebody that you trust so they don't go too deep or too high on the energy. Now, peak number 2, which is our late 30s. And I have experienced this peak where over the course of a month, I remember I was standing by the elevators in my building in front of the mirror and I caught myself in the mirror and I said, "What is that?" And I had a little jowl starting to form. I've obviously addressed it. And we will talk about how I've addressed it. Sorry, I don't know why the exposure is doing something weird. But in your late 30s, you notice over the course of a month that you've started to jowl. And maybe your smile lines have started to deepen, okay? Hold on. This is where having a derm by your side, someone that you really trust, is helpful, because the goal now is to not only be on top of your skincare, but when I'm talking about loss of volume, deep wrinkles, deeper lines, no cream is ever going to restore that. So yes, you started your retinoids, maybe you even started your peptides. Great, and you're on a solid skincare routine, which I absolutely advocate for. But when I'm specifically talking about volume itself in your face, you really have to go below the surface of the skin, and that's usually through a needle. And so different treatments can be very helpful, starting with PRF or PRP to help to stimulate your own tissue. This is never going to be a volumizer. It's never going to get rid of my jowl, but what can PRP or PRF do? It can strengthen my tissue so I don't get as jowly as fast, or I don't develop deep smile lines as fast. I have loved this treatment for my under eyes. I've never used filler in my under eyes. I have been very vocal about this because the under eyes are a very tricky area, and you have to be the right candidate. Given that I do inject myself, I cannot see myself with filler here, and it's easier to do PRP or PRF, so I get that done on myself maybe twice a year for my under eyes. It acts like a fertilizer of sorts and helps to strengthen my tissue so that my fat pads do not poop as easily or as much, and my skin is firmer. Filler can also be extremely helpful when done correctly and done strategically. A little bit goes a very long way. As you've hit your late 30s and you've noticed a jowl, you've probably also noticed a narrowing of your jawline, where this part of your jawline has started to disappear, especially if you've had a baby or you've just given birth. It is a real thing that happens. When used strategically, fillers can make a real difference with the proportionality of your face. Fillers are never going to lift your face. It's an optical illusion. But fillers should not be used to fill either. They should be used to give you those details on your face that keep the proportionality of your face intact so that you look cohesive. So I'm talking about strategic placement on the outer proportions of your face, even slightly on the outer edges of your cheeks, to help to make sure that your face remains looking balanced, and so that the jowl becomes less evident. And additionally, you want to start incorporating some of those tightening treatments, the stuff that I was talking about, whether it's radio frequency or ultrasound. I really love Ulthera because it doesn't break the skin barrier and it delivers ultrasound energy versus any sort of microneedling with radio frequency. I'm a little bit always more nervous because of my melasma, but I've done Ulthera every 2 years for like the past few years or so. And even though the results are not dramatically wow, they have definitely helped over time to keep my face looking tight. Okay, but that is your late 30s. Now, moving into our early 40s and that specific peak at 44, this is when patients come in and they've told me, I've woken up and overnight I don't recognize myself, and they're hitting the panic button. Unfortunately, this has been scientifically proven that at 44, you do age overnight pretty rapidly and you start to not to recognize yourself. So that is something that I am awaiting. But what do we find at that point in time? Not only are our jowls more pronounced, we start to notice that our lids become more hooded, our under eye bags become slightly more worsened, our lips start to really thin out, and we start to develop a type of crepiness on our skin and we lose our bounce. Now, the instinct is to want to do everything all at once. But you should fight that instinct because it's not about doing everything all at once. You will burn yourself out and get turned off because the best results do happen over time. So you want to continue whatever it is that you have been doing in your late 30s, but you might want to take it up a tiny notch by now marrying the light microneedling regularly into your schedule. You don't need to go full crazy and have radio frequency each time, but maybe you do once or twice a year the microneedling with radio frequency to help to tighten the skin under your eyes. If you have melasma, be careful. Make sure you go to the right provider who's not going to go too deep or too strong. In between those treatments, you can do regular microneedling and marry it to topical polynucleotides that can help with skin hydration. I'm talking about the salmon sperm, the salmon DNA. It's not yet legal to inject it in the US, but when applied topically with microneedling, I have seen the difference firsthand in the skin of a patient. I literally did somebody's neck 2 months ago and I redid it yesterday, and her neck skin is so much less crepier. So you can absolutely start incorporating those things in addition to the light filler twice a year or so, married to the Botox. So if you have 2 appointments that you go to as your pillars twice a year, let that be your Botox filler, and then have a project whether it is a microneedling, whether it is a tightening, whether it is PRF, whatever it is, that could be your project for the year. This way you don't get overstimulated, you don't get overwhelmed, and you're constantly doing something over the course of time to help yourself. Now, the last peak is in your 60s, at 60 years old. This one's also been scientifically proven, but like I hinted at the beginning of the video, you usually have come to terms with the fact that you're aging by then, and therefore you're not that surprised by it. I've had a few patients come in at 60 being shocked that they've aged, and I shift the perspective for them, like how lucky are you that you've lived now almost 7 decades, because at 60 you've lived 7 decades, right? 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60. You're entering your 7th decade. And the reality is you were not bothered this whole time. So we try to shift the perspective, but I also tell them that at 60, a little bit will not go a long way anymore, because at that point you've lost the elasticity. So we have to make a decision. Do we cut out the excess skin through surgery, or do you not want to go the surgical route and you want to stay the minimally invasive route, but you must have realistic expectations that they're not going to be that dramatically different at this point, and it's going to take a longer effort and time to really have a shift in your face. So that is something that we have, conversations we have in office all the time, and I'm very, very honest about that. But speaking about surgery, I think when it comes to your eyes, you want to do it before you need it. Meaning you want to do it in your mid-40s, because if you do it after your eyes are extremely droopy and saggy, the results are going to be dramatically different, and you might walk out a different person from the OR, and I don't think that's a good look. So if you're starting to notice that you're hooding, address the hooding first. If you're noticing that you have under eye bags, address the under eye bags first. I also tell patients, especially if they do want to do the surgery in their 40s, do it area by area. If the upper lids are worse, start with that. Just do that. Don't do the upper and the lower just because you're going under and it's a one-time fee. It's not worth it. Just do the upper area first, let it heal, wait a year, and then decide if you want to go back and then do the lower lids if that is still bothering you. I think you minimize your chances that way of changing the shape of your eye and changing your whole look, and it's a much gentler approach. Now, when it comes to facelifts, after 70, I do not recommend anybody go under the knife for fun, for an elective procedure, because you can't digest anesthesia as well. And a facelift has a 10-year span. So I think anywhere from your late 40s to your 50s is probably when you want to start thinking about it. And if you're planning on having 1 or 2 facelifts in your lifetime, that's probably the right time to think about it. But last, the other type of surgery that people don't often think about are neither a facelift or a neck lift. It's a platismoplasty, where if you have a weak muscle, you can literally tack the muscle together so you can look more like that. Think of it as a diastasis. You know how when your abdomen separate when you're pregnant, people close those to tighten that so you can feel firmer again in your core, and it can change your life, and it can change your quality of life dramatically. It's kind of the same thing, but for the muscles here. Some people are just genetically weak here, yours truly included, and getting a platismoplasty where they do a small nick, take the muscle, tack them together and up so that you don't have that softening. It's probably not a bad idea to minimize overall how much you drop over time. But if you don't want to go under surgery, you have other options in office like ultrasound energy and therapy that can help with that. Obviously, it's not going to be the same thing as surgery, but it's a nice to know that you have that option. And there you have it, the 4 peaks of aging and valleys in a single video. And I hope this video is not meant to scare you. It's meant to open a discussion. We obviously could have taken way more than 20 minutes because I could have gotten really deep into different types of procedures, different types of products that you can use, etc., for each one of these decades or each one of these peaks. But I wanted to kind of hit on it bird's eye view, and if you guys are interested, please let me know below. We can absolutely talk more about it. But I also want to remind you guys that this is really a long-term marathon. Pace yourself. Don't do everything at once. Doing it very lightly over time with the person that you trust by your side is the most important name and part of the game. And at the end of the day, aging is a privilege, because if you are not aging, you are dead. And hopefully you and I get to age for a very long time together. And I hope this video made you feel a little bit more prepared and better for the future ahead. Have a beautiful Saturday, and don't forget to subscribe, like this video below. And I'll see you guys next week with some of my all-time favorite hacks for the crown jewel of skincare ingredients.